Okay, so in this video, I want to talk about drone strikes in general and the massive wave of drone strikes yesterday in particular. This is a interesting image. It shows where all reported drone strikes on Russia have been. Most of them have been around Moscow. There have been some right around the edge of Ukraine, which makes sense, but then some up here. Wow, that's really telling when you can get up into these other places as well. Okay, so let's look at Euromaidan Press. Damage from Ukrainian drone strike on Russian Peskov Oblast is more significant than earlier reports suggested, and we'll talk about that. But the next line was really compelling to me because I I focused on the drone strike so much I almost forgot about the rest of this. Ukrainian troops breach Russia's second line of defense along its 6-kilometer stretch on the southern front. So this is actually going on. There's still like real bullets flying back and forth, and we tend to forget that. So here is an image, and this image was really compelling to me too, because yesterday we saw about like there's a few possibilities. One, NATO invaded. We're talking about over here, right? One, NATO invaded. That's kind of nonsense that Russia went for it right away. And that they would even say that in their official propaganda shows that they don't mean it, because nobody would take them seriously. Because if they were taken seriously and that triggered NATO, that would be a hot war, which they don't want and they're not prepared for. And I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment. Or there's somebody inside Russia, which could very well be, or it could be like this. But if it's like this, I'm scratching my head because are your air defenses really that bad that these drones can get all the way through here with impunity? Like, is that really what's going on? If yesterday's Russian sources claim that Ukrainians damaged 4 aircraft, then today some sources mentioned that 6 aircraft IL-76 were actually damaged, and this is kind of what this would look like. This image here, screenshot from a video showing the Russian IL-76 burning. Wow. Is it really that bad? So, I would have thought that there was somebody on the ground in Russia, and Russia's a pretty big place, and that makes it hard to defend. So, okay, there's that. Now let's go on to this. I thought this was a brilliant observation, and some of the comments that you all make in the videos below just like they send me new directions in my thinking, and I really appreciate that. This Twitter post said it's never been about NATO. The yesterday night attack on Peskov Airport, the most westbound Russian military hub, demonstrated that it was left totally defenseless. A hypothetical NATO attack from this most natural direction would have been devastating, yet all resources have been directed toward the reconquest of Ukraine. It's never been about NATO. So forget about Solyov, who is saying we ought to just bomb NATO and look, right? It's all bluster. I'm going to do another video about that shortly, but it's all bluster, right? So you can just safely discount that. Here's the British intelligence update. Overnight on the 29th and 30th of August 2023, Russia experienced up to 5 separate strikes by one-way attack uncrewed aerial vehicles, the largest attack on Russia since the start of the conflict. Explosions were recorded in Moscow, Bryansk, Ryazan, as well as Peskov Air Base close to the Estonian border. The attack on Peskov likely damaged several Russian military transport aircraft. During August 2023, Russia experienced 25 separate drone attacks. I'm telling you, I've been telling you, I've been beating the drums. Drones are the wave of the future. This is where we're going, almost certainly carried out by OWA UAVs. Many of these UAVs have reached their targets, which likely means that Russian air defense is having a difficulty detecting and destroying them. Russia is likely rethinking its air defense posture in the area between Ukraine and Moscow to better deal with these attacks. Now, that these drones have been able to penetrate as they have is just surprising to us, because we were thinking like, of course they have this together. They wouldn't allow that. Like, they can't be that defenseless. But it appears that they might be. Previous strikes against Russian military air bases have led to the dispersal of Russian aircraft to locations across Russia. However, the recent strikes against Stoltzy and Peskov have demonstrated that the UAVs have significant reach, making further dispersal more challenging. It's likely that Russia will have to consider the addition of further air defense systems to airfields that it considers to be at risk from UAV attacks. And that presents a significant challenge to Russia, who will then have to displace that from somewhere else, most likely from Ukraine, because that's where they would have defense, and that becomes a greater challenge for them. Now they can't protect their troops, they have to protect these airfields. Now, it gets even better. Watch this. This is a Australian-made cardboard drone. I'm not making this up. This is a Sydney Morning Herald. Cardboard drones from Australia used in attack on the Russian airfield. I read this yesterday and I about lost it. It was just, this is amazing. These are like legit just cardboard. Now they're very strong cardboard, but they're cardboard drones. Okay, so this is the defense minister with the team members of the cardboard drones. Ukraine's ambassador to Australia said that the Kursk airfield was a legitimate target for Ukraine's armed forces. Russia uses that airport to launch military operations and send missiles. So they actually used the cardboard drones in the attack yesterday. Okay, a source from the security service of Ukraine told the Kyiv Post that the wave of drones had hit 4 Su-30 aircraft, 1 MiG-29 at the facility, as well as damaging 2 Panzer missile launchers and the radars of a S-300 air defense system. The source described the operations as impressive, saying that only 3 of the drones used in the attack were shot down by a leaky air defense system of Russia. Okay, so Russia constantly talks about how they shot this down, or explosions were heard because of air defense or whatever else. But cardboard drones were used to attack, okay, so these are expensive cardboard drones, right? They have actual like military level guidance in it, but it's basically cardboard, and it's hard to detect the cardboard with radar systems, and so that makes it even more difficult. And so it costs a couple $1,000s. These kind of drones attacked and destroyed multi-million, like tens of millions of dollars actual airplanes that, you know, like Russian bomber types. It's just amazing that they were able to do this. Here's a video about the same thing.
A high-tech weapon made with low-tech components.
Now, this video was made 6 months ago, right? Let's look at the time, 5 months ago. And so, okay, it was kind of a, well, that's interesting. Let's see what happens. But it happened. Like, it just happened yesterday.
Waxed cardboard and rubber bands, but with military-grade guidance systems.
And what I'm excited about is I think it provides the warfighter the opportunity to innovate in the battle space.
The cardboard drone launch.
By the way, that is how you would launch. So my sons have done some drone training with Civil Air Patrol. That is how you would launch these kind of like small drones. So it's not just like, oh, I don't know, that can't do it. No, this actually, this is legit.
Launched by hand or catapult. 100 a month are being sent to Ukrainian soldiers, arriving as flat packs.
And then you assemble it as if it's from IKEA, and then you can.
And that's the most difficult part, I'm sure, that the IKEA assembly process is. I mean, but these things are actually working like you would expect them to work, and it's wow.
Use it. It's cheap. It's very important because you can use it, and it's expendable.
Used for supply and medicine drops, as a decoy, and for lethal missions.
I know it's been used for that purposes, and I think this is how drones are used in this war.
So they can use it for bombing purposes, or put a camera there and use it for reconnaissance purposes, just to spy out what's ahead of them.
But the manufacturers are coy about that.
For operational sensitivity, we can't talk too much about how it is being used.
According to the government, a boost to the defence industry's international reputation.
And what you just saw there, how it landed, it's supposed to land on its belly and it doesn't do it any harm, and that's really impressive.
This is an example of Australian ingenuity.
And the Defence Minister says his department is now investigating whether there's a role for these cardboard drones for the Australian Armed Forces.
Yeah.
I hope we'll see our Defence Force using this in the future. I think it has great application here as well as in the Ukraine.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
And that's one of the interesting things, is that what's happening in Ukraine is going to be a field test for what's going to happen in the future in warfare. Just as a last little bit, my next video, and I already watched it once, my next video is going to be watching Solyov just lose his crap, talking about drones, going on about, we're going to wipe you off the map, the Baltic states, we're going to, right, and he's becoming unhinged. In fact, I might name the video Unhinged. I mean, he just, wow. And because of the drone strikes, and yeah, yeah, okay, so that's what the very next thing I'm going to do is, after I finish this video, is I'm going to go right over to the Russian Media Monitor and do that. So stay tuned. I said this before, but drones are the wave of the future. This is the Star Wars, the Clone Wars. Honestly, we're seeing an evolution in warfare right now. I'm not saying it's going to look like this, but with drones, like with unmanned aerial vehicles, that is going to have a much heavier role in warfare moving forward, just like after World War I, the tank became very dominant in World War II, and that's my prediction. I firmly believe that. I see this. I mean, it's like in Technicolor. All right, thank you for your time and your attention, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine. My video on Solyov will be coming up very shortly.